Shalom, shalom again, brethren. I'm sharing part 5 of the lesson study, Christianity masquerades as good, but its foundations are evil. Just a quick reminder, I make no claims to be a teacher. I make no claims to be a biblical scholar. I make no claims to be a pastor. I make no claims to be a preacher. All I'm doing is what the Bereans would have done. I accept the word of scripture, I go and I search it out, and I ask Yahuwah to allow his Ruach to guide me. By so doing, I share the information that I come up with, so that we all can come together as one in the unity of Yahushua. Now historically, we know that Yahushua's greatest human enemies were the Pharisees who denied him. These said Pharisees made up their own doctrines, customs, and traditions, all the while they laid aside Yahuwah's Torah law. I turn your attention to Mark chapter 7, and it reads, "Then came together unto him the Pharisees and certain of the scribes, which came from Jerusalem. And when they saw some of his disciples eat bread with defiled, that is to say, with unwashen hands, they found fault. For the Pharisees and all the Jews, except they wash their hands, oft eat not, holding the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the market, except they wash, they eat not, and many other things they be, which they have received to hold, as the washing of cups and pots, brazen vessels, and of tables. Then the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, Why walk not thy disciples according to the tradition of the elders, but eat bread with unwashed hands? He answered and said unto them, Well have Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of Yahuwah, ye hold the tradition of men, as of the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandments of Elohim, that ye may keep your own traditions. Verse 13, he says, Making the word of Elohim of none effect through your tradition, which ye have delivered, and many such like things do ye. In Colossians 2, verse 8, we see that Paul came to the understanding of what Yahushua said of the Pharisees and of the scribes as being hypocrites. When we read Colossians 2 verse 8, it says, Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Yahushua. Today, in Christianity, many of them claim to be the true expositors of truth. Well, let's see if this is actually correct. The Nazarene, and that is to say the true followers of Yahushua, were the true faithful expositors of truth. And this continues to be so today in 2020, with those of us who continue in Yahushua's footsteps. And was also done by those Nazarim that lived during the time of the Roman religion Christianity. In Matthew's chapter 10, verse 22, we see Yahushua giving his disciples early warning as to what would happen to them as his disciples, the true followers, decided not to adhere to what the world was adhering to, but rather to stick with Torah. Matthew chapter 10 verse 22 reads, "And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved." Also in Matthew chapter 24 verse 9, we see Yahushua giving his disciples another staunch, firm warning. It reads, "Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake." Let us now re-examine some statements that were made by the early Roman religion of Christianity, in particular by what we know to be the Roman or the early Roman religion Christianity, its church fathers, in particular Jerome. Jerome states, "We shall now especially consider heretics who call themselves Nazarim," that is to say, the Nazarim. So here we see Jerome making this statement on the behalf of himself and others of the Roman Christian church when he says, "We shall now especially consider heretics who call themselves Nazarim." He goes on to say, "They are mainly Jews or Yahudim and nothing else. They make use not only of the New Testament, but they also use in a way the Old Testament of the Yahudim." Jerome goes on to say, "For they do not forbid the books of the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, so that they are approved of by the Yahudim, from whom the Nazarim do not differ in anything, and they profess all the dogmas pertaining to the prescriptions of the law and the customs of the Yahudim, except that they believe in Mashiach. They preach that there is but one Elohim, that is to say, one God, and his son, Yahushua. But they are very learned in the Hebrew language, for they, like the Jews, read the whole law, then the prophets. They differ from the Yahudim because they believe in Mashiach, and they differ from the Christians in that they are to this day bound to the Jewish or Yahudim rites, such as circumcision, the Shabbat, and the other ceremonies." This is taken from Jerome, Epiphanius Panarean 29. It was translated from the Greek. Now, in AD 382, Jerome translated the Greek Septuagint Bible into the New Latin language. This was 57 years after the Christian Church was created by the Roman Emperor Constantine. Jerome was an early Roman Christian church father who expressed the sentiments of the newly formed Christian religion. He labeled the Nazarim as heretics, marking them for death because they obediently continued to adhere to the Jewish Torah law, in addition to their allegiance to Yahushua HaMashiach. Hostily, there was a distinct division between the Christian church and the Nazarene, the early followers of Yahushua, whom they hated. The Christian church was neither then nor is it now today in 2020 the complete expositors of the truth, for the very reason that they continue to hold animosity toward the Torah. All Christian churches have found a way to ignore its binding claims, whether it be that they proclaim they are now under grace or declare the Torah law ended at the cross or the stake. The evidence, or rather the weight of evidence exposes the false assertions that Christians were ever the early believers and original followers of Yahushua HaMashiach. Rather, they did not exist until the Council of Nicaea of AD 321 to AD 325, when Constantine crafted Christianity. Roman Christian ideology was then inserted through the Greek translation, altering the sacred times and the laws prescribed in the Torah law. Years were changed from beginning in Abib, or what we call spring today, to the cold, or what we call winter today. Lunar months became solar months, and together with the weeks were divorced from being regulated by the new moon. This single disconnect caused the weeks to cycle without end. Days were no longer beaconed by their unique lunar phase, and their start time changed from sunrise to midnight. Yahuwah's Kodash prophetic feast days were utterly abolished. Consequently, this broke the perfect continuity of the Hebrew Israelite strong line from the Torah promise to the Brit Hadashah, that is to say, the New Testament. So the point here that we see is, as we unpeel the layers of history and go backwards into what really occurred, we recognize that Christianity was the brainchild of the Roman Emperor Constantine. This religion, Christianity, which has daughters of many denominations, be it Adventists, be it Baptists, Anglican, Wesleyan, Calvinist, Methodist, etc. This religion, Christianity, was the brainchild of Constantine. So much so that he utilized this religion to force the true followers of Yahushua to either bow to Christianity or to die. Brethren, I hope that this information is of great value to you, so that you can study, do your research, and understand who you are and how you ought to carry yourself. Are we to live as Christians, or are we to live as Nazarene, and that is to say, followers of Yahushua? Shalom, brethren.